Good day to all of you. Welcome to the course Probability Theory and Stochastic Process. We are dealing with the basics of probability and we are into lesson 4 which talks about total probability theorem and Bayes theorem. So we'll go forward with our knowledge of conditional probability. We've seen in the last lesson the conditional probability is nothing but when we try to derive the joint probability of dependent events, that is when the conditional probability has arisen. Now jumping quickly into total probability theorem, we consider a sample space S which has m mutually exclusive events, and where m is a set of natural numbers starts from 1 and goes all the way to capital M. The probability of any event y that is defined along with these events x1, x2, etc. in the same sample space can be expressed in terms of all events xn, right? So the expression for the total probability theorem is P of y. If you can see the figure over here, y is an event which is which is coexisting with the m mutually exclusive events x1 to xn, right? So if we want to define y, we can do it in terms of p of xm, and the expression is p of y is equal to m runs from summation of all events of x, okay, with probability of y given xn into probability of xn. This is how we define the total probability theorem, right? Moving forward to the proof of total probability theorem, we start off with the sample space that we already know. The sample space is defined with the help of the m mutually exclusive events. The one thing we got to understand is, what do you mean by mutual exclusion? Where the when you have x1 and x2, x2, x3, etc., xk and xm, there is nothing in common between all the events. They are absolutely mutually exclusive, which implies p of x1 intersection x2 is equal to 5. Likewise, xk intersection xm would also be equal to 5. Now let y be a subset of S. Obviously, it's a subset of S. And when you, according to the analogies of probability theorems, P of y intersection S is directly equal to P of y. We've seen this in lesson 2, right? So moving a bit forward, I'm going to use these two analogies 1 and 2, and I'll be trying to substitute equation 1 in equation 2. By doing so, in place of S, I have completely replaced it with the entire events X. So after doing that, we've got P of Y to be P of Y intersection all conjoint events X1 to Xm, right? Now, by applying the P of y is basically given as summation m is equal to 1 to capital M P of y intersection xm. What I've done is I've just replaced all these with the help of a summation, right? And I've put xm over here. I hope that is explanatory. And then moving on to the next step, directly what we get is, what is the joint probability of two events y and xm? We've known that the joint probability of p of a intersection b is p of a given b into p of b. So that is what we have done. This is nothing but the joint probability of p of y intersection xm. So, and this proves the total probability theorem. This is the proof of total probability theorem, where when you have any given event xm that has already occurred before, if you want to find out the probability of a new event in the same sample space as your xm existed, then you use the total probability theorem. So P of y is given as summation of all the events that had already occurred prior to P of y multiplied with P of P of xn. That is the events that have already occurred. Right? This is the total probability theorem. We will have a better understanding once we start doing exercise problems. But for now, I just want you to remember what total probability theorem is and what is it used to deal. moving forward with the same notion, with the knowledge of total probability theorem, we have Bayes theorem that has come up front of us. So what does Bayes theorem basically say? Total probability theorem is you're trying to find out an alien event that is coexisting along with m mutually exclusive events. Now here, with the prior knowledge of event that has already happened, that is p of y given xm. Xm is an event that has already happened and we also have information on xm. Then we are trying to find out p of y given xm. So if you have this information already in your hand, then Bayes theorem states that you can find out the probability of xm given y. So it is just the other way around. It is just the other way around. If you have p of y given xm, then we can find out p of xm given y for you. That is what Bayes theorem says, and it's all dependent on the total probability theorem, where all the events x1 to xm are m mutually exclusive events. And as I told you, what do you mean by mutual exclusion? Where there is nothing, sorry about this one has to be intersection. Xk intersection, I'm going to correct that right away. Right, this is going to be intersection. This has to be intersection. Xn is equal to 5 and k should not be equal to n. We know that because k you can't have xk intersection xk. K and n are two different events, right? So this is the Bayes theorem, and according to Bayes theorem, p of xm given y is equal to p of y given xm into p of xm. This is p of y intersection xm, the joint probability of p of y and xm, by the total probability. This is what we have seen in the total probability, the total probability of y given x2. So this is nothing but p of y. So this is how we find out, and p of y is just elaborated with the help of the total probability theorem we have already found earlier. I have just elaborated the summation in this part, right? So this is what the denominator is nothing but p of y, and I have elaborated it with the help of total probability theorem. And this is what if you have prior knowledge about an event xm which has already happened, and if you want to find out the probability of the happened event with respect to the current occurring event, then we use the Bayes theorem, right? So we'll quickly jump on to the problem so that we have a better understanding of the concept that we've learned, right? Moving quickly, the first exercise problem is P of y given xm. So a ball is selected at random from two boxes. So we have two boxes here. Sorry about that. We have two boxes. One has 3 red balls and 4 blue balls. The other box, let us name this box B1 and let us name this box B2. It has 5 red balls and 6 blue balls. Now what is the question that is being asked? What is the probability of drawing a red ball? So the probability of drawing a red ball. So how can we find out what is that we have? We have two boxes, B1, B2, and in those boxes you are drawing a ball at random, wherein the first box has 3 red and 4 blue, the second box has 5 red and 6 blue. This is what we are supposed to find out. So firstly, we need to know what is the probability of drawing a red ball from box B1. So I guess you should be able to tell that the probability of drawing it is simply 3 by 7, because you have 3 red balls and out of which 7 is the total number of balls. Likewise, the probability of drawing a red ball from box B2 is equal to 5 by 11. Okay, so now what is that we are missing? We need to, in order to find out P of R, I'm just going to erase this so that we get space. P of R is equal to P from the total probability theorem. It is P of R with prior knowledge that it's being pulled from box P1 into P of B1, right? Plus P of R given B2 into P of B2. So this is from the total probability theorem. Now we have two data in the the two required information, but what we are lacking is the probability of B drawing a ball from box P1 and B drawing a ball from box P2. So let us assume that the events, both the events are equally likely. When you say equally likely, it means both the probabilities are exactly half. So the probability of you pulling out a red ball from B1 is 0.5, and you pulling out a ball, not a red ball, just a normal ball from B2 is 0.5. So the way in which you calculate P of R is P of R is equal to 3 by 7 into 0.5 plus 5 by 11 into 0.5. Right, I'm directly going to write the answer down. 0.4415 is the answer for this one. So this is done with the help of total probability theorem. You just got to understand what the question is and what they are asking us to do and what information is already available and what assumptions you have to make, right? So let us just move on to another problem, which is quite simple as well. So this is just a bigger version so that you understand the summation concept of total probability theorem. Okay, two numbers are chosen at random from among 10 numbers, from among numbers between 1 to 10 without a replacement. That is, if you pick the number 5 or 6 first, then the second chance cannot be you picking up a number 6 again. There's no replacement at all, right? Find the probability that the second number chosen is 5. So you have to find the probability that of you have to find the probability, let y be the event of choosing 5. That is what you have to find out. Now it directly indicates that we got to use the total probability theorem. There shouldn't be any second thoughts about it. Now let us consider the event as xi, where your I ranges from 1, 2, 3, etc. to 10. Right, because you are picking up numbers between 1 and 10, so you have 10 events altogether, which is x1, x2, x3, etc., x10. Okay, now what is P of y equal to 5 from the total probability theorem? It is P of, we need to pick up the number 5 by having the knowledge about x already into P of xi. So where does I range from? I ranges from 1 to 10, the summation. So this is the total probability theorem. Now what is P of y given xi? So first question that arises is what is, okay, let us start with P of xi because it is quite simple. P of xi is you picking up one number among 10 numbers. So this is directly given as 1 by 10. I don't think you will have any dilemma in answering that. It is directly 1 by 10. Now what is the probability of you picking up a number 5 when you know that a number has already been picked up, right? So what is P of y given xi? This is equal to, you know that a number has already been picked up, so and there is no replacement, so the total number of numbers now is 9. It's not 10 anymore. So amongst 9, you have to pick up the number 5. So there is only 1 by 9. The probability is 1 by 9. Now, when we talk about the range of I, so here I would want to include I not equal to 5. So this is pretty, I guess it's getting a bit confused. So I'll just remove this. So what is this? This is 1 by 9. So I cannot, if for instance, if I choose P of y equal to 5, when x 5, the number has been picked up. Do you think that this event is something that is possible to happen? Because when you have picked up already a number 5, you cannot pick it up again. There's no as, there is no replacement to it. So this event is something which is not possible at all. So the total number of events that is possible is only 9 in this case. That summation that is, I mean, the outcomes is only 9 in this case. So I would want to add up I not equal to 5, because if you have already picked up 5, then y cannot be 5 over here. So I should not be equal to 5 in this case. So the summation will be 9 times, it's not 10 times anymore, because I is not 5 not equal in, I mean included, into 1 by 9 into 1 by 10. So the total probability of you picking up a second number to be 5 is 1 by 10. So these are the things that we got to be careful about, the exclusions that we got to make when you're trying to find the total probability. You have to think in these terms when you try to solve. So I've presented a variety of problems where we started with a very basic problem, and then what had to be thought about other than the normal total probability theorem, right? So we are going to do a number of exercise problems as assignment as well for you to have a better understanding, right? So quickly moving on to, this is another problem. Suppose, and all these problems have been picked up from probability, random variables and random processes by Sham's outline. It's a very good book. It would be helpful for you to be in solving many problems. It's got numerous problems, okay? uh, and it will give you a very good understanding of the entire concepts of probability, right? So we'll go forward with the question. Suppose a laboratory test to detect a certain disease has the following statistics. Okay, let A is equal to event that is tested a person has the disease. So A is, let us consider this to be a favorable event, and B is event that the test result is positive. Okay, A is the person has the disease, B is the person with the disease is tested positive, right? And the information that is given to us is P of B given A is 0.99 and P of B given A bar. It is A bar here. I mean, a test result is positive for the person who does not have the disease is 0.005, and 0.1% of the population actually has the disease. So what is the probability that the person has the disease given that the test result is positive? So what is the question that is being asked us? First of all, we've been given this data. Now 0.1% of the population actually has the disease. So P of A is equal to 0.1%, which is equal to 0.001. So which implies P of A bar is equal to 1 minus P of A, which is point, sorry, not 99. So this, we've got two informations from the data that is given. So what is that we are to find? What is the probability that the person has a disease, and the test result is positive? So we are to find the person has a disease given that the test result is positive, right? So with this data that is on the board, it would be very clear for you to understand that we have to apply the Bayes theorem over here. You already have data about P of B given A, and you have to find out about P of A given B. So it clearly indicates that you are supposed to use the Bayes theorem, right? So the Bayes theorem will be as P of A given B is equal to P of B given A into P of A whole by P of B given A, P of A plus P of B given A bar. We have to consider all the events that are there in that sample space. So A and A bar are both the events that are there in the sample space. So we already know that P of B given A is 0. From the given data, it is 0.99, and P of A is 1%, which is 0.00001 by 0.99 into 0.001 plus 0.0005, the data that is already given, sorry, I guess I've put another 0 extra, into 0.0099. This is what we have, and the final answer will lead to 0.165, which is 16.5%. So something we got to understand over here, in spite of having a 99% accuracy in testing, it is only 16.5% of the people with the actual disease are being tested positive. So this is the dependency. Unless we have this data, we wouldn't have been able to find out how accurate the testing is. So the Bayes theorem or the total probability theorem, which arises from conditional probability, very well talks about all the other inclusions that are there in the subset or that are coexisting along with them in the same subset, right? So we'll go to another very interesting and important problem. I've directly copied it from the Sham series for better understanding, right? So we have a communication channel which is shown which is shown in the figure. This is the communication channel, right? So the input is X and output is Y. The channel input symbol is X. It has two states, 0 and 1. It is a binary channel. Obviously, it will have only two states, right? So output is Y. It also has two states. And we always know that we have noise. So because of the noise, the output that we receive, if you send a 0, it is not necessarily that you receive a 0. It might be converted into a 1 and it will be sent on to the other end. So because of noise, what happens is a 0 becomes a 1 and a 1 becomes a 0. Okay, that is what is given here. Because of channel noise, an input 0 may convert to an output 1 and vice versa, right? The channel is characterized by transition probabilities P0, Q0, P1 and Q1. So these are the transition probabilities P0, P1. What is P0? If you send a 0, you getting a 1. That is, you sending 0 and you getting 1. It is noise. It is because of noise that this is happening. That is a probability, right? It is an unfavorable event. And Q0 and Q1. Q1 is probably behind the bar. So Q1. These are the two probabilities where you send data 0 and the output is 0, right? And we've been given P0. We know this P0 is Y1 for X0 as the input. X0 is where 0 is sent as input and Y1 is where 1 is the output. That is, when you send a 0, you get a 1. That is given as P0. That's what we've seen over here. You send a 0, you get a 1 in the output. Likewise, P1 is you send a 0, you get a 1, right? It is P1. You send a 1, you get a 0 basically. You send a 1, you get a 0. Likewise, Q0, you send a 0, you get a 0. It is a most favorable event. You send a 1, you get a 1. It is also a favorable event, right? So where here we have given X0, Y0 is X is equal to 0 and X is equal to 1 respectively. And likewise, Y0, Y1 is y equal to 0, y equal to 1, which we've already understood. So obviously the sum of both favorable and unfavorable events will be equal to 1. So P naught plus Q naught is equal to 1, and P1 plus Q1 is also equal to 1, right? So let the probability of x naught be equal to 0.5 and P naught be 0.1 and P1 be 0.2. So these are the values that are being given to us, and because we have P naught as 0.1, you can find out Q naught from there. What would be Q naught? Q naught would be 0.9. You have P1 0.2, so Q1 will be 0.8, right? So the first question that is being asked to us is find P of Y naught and P of Y1. So how would you find P of Y naught and P of Y1? You have to use the total probability theorem, obviously. The question is find out P of Y naught. So P of Y naught is P of Y naught given X naught into P of X naught plus P of Y naught given X1 into P of X1. This is from the total probability theorem. We are supposed to find out what P of Y naught is. So this is P of Y naught given X naught. How are you going to look into P of Y naught given X naught? What would you reckon the value would be? You're talking about Y naught given X naught. So you're talking about Q naught here, right? So how will you find out Q naught? What is P naught that is given over here? It is 0. So what is P of Y naught given X naught? P of Y naught given X naught is nothing but Q naught. So what is Q naught? Q naught is 0.9, right? Q naught is directly 0.9. So 0.9 multiplied by what is P of X naught? P of X naught is directly given as 0.5. So we can directly write it as 0.5 plus what is now, if you give an input 1, you're going to get output 0. You got to find out what that is. Input is 1, output is 0. So it is P1. What is P1 value? 0.2. So you directly write it as 0.2, and this is 0.5. Obviously X naught, the probability of sending X naught is 0.5. This probability of sending 1 as an input is 0.5. So this is what we'll be having, 0.11 into 0.5. So it is 0.055. So this is P of Y naught, right? So what we will do is, I'll just leave you guys over here. So I have found out what P of Y naught is. You have to find out likewise what P of Y1 is. And the B, C bits are to be done by you as well. Please try doing it. We've already solved a problem of the same kind. And later the calculation of probability of error PE. So what is calculation of probability of error? So if you send an output 1, so probability of error, how are you giving it? It is basically you get an output 1 when you send an input as 0. So this is an error. Likewise, what is the other error that will happen? If you send an output of, if you send an input of 1, you get an output of 0. This is another kind of error that we'll be talking about. So this is how you calculate the probability of error, right? So I want you to work out on the second part of P of Y1 and then B, C and D bits, right? If we are going to look into how to solve about these in the next class, but right now I'm going to leave you, and I hope you finish your assignment before coming to the next class. We will talk about the doubts again later, right? Thank you and have a happy learning.